Imagine you're standing in the hall of an international airport with one suitcase and a one-way ticket, not for a vacation, not for a year, but for 10 years of life in completely different countries. This is a decision that changes everything, from how you drink your morning coffee to how you now look at your own life. Many people think of moving abroad as an adventure, but when you pass through passport control and realize there's no return ticket, a very specific feeling arises inside you. Not a romantic one, a real one, as if you've just cut an invisible thread that had been holding you in one place. The first move. You arrive in Berlin on a cold November day. You rent a small apartment in Neukölln. Your first morning begins with trying to buy bread at a bakery and realizing your school German is almost useless here. The saleswoman speaks quickly, with sarcasm you don't quite catch. You nod, smile, and leave with a roll you didn't even want. You walk down the street where everyone seems confident in their place, but you don't. Every day you learn everything from scratch: how public transport works, how to sort trash correctly, how not to end up in an awkward situation at the supermarket when the cashier waits for you to pay with exact change. After a month, you can already order coffee without hesitation. But in the evenings, when you call your parents, you realize you have almost nothing to tell them. Everything's fine, you say. In reality, you're still trying to get used to the fact that even the smell of rain on the street is different now. The second year, you move to Bangkok. Everything is the complete opposite here. 35-degree heat even in December. The streets buzz around the clock. You rent an apartment in Sukhumvit, and in the first week try street food that leaves you spending half the next day in the bathroom. You learn how to bargain for fruit at the market, pick up basic Thai phrases so the taxi driver doesn't take you the long way. One evening you sit on the roof of a hostel, looking at the endless lights of the city, and suddenly catch yourself thinking, you're no longer a tourist, but you're still not local. You exist in the space between. It's in these moments that you begin to notice how your perception of time changes. Back home, every day was scheduled: work, meetings, plans. Here, days can stretch or shrink unexpectedly. You learn to sit in a small cafe and simply watch people without checking your phone every 5 minutes. But there's another reality. You call an old friend back home and realize your conversations have become shorter. You can no longer fully explain why sometimes you wake up at 4 in the morning with a strange feeling that you've lost some part of yourself. Your friends listen, nod, but they stayed there, in the old life, and you are already someone else. By the end of the second year, you navigate the new city more freely. You know where to get the best pad thai, how to avoid rush hour traffic, and how to politely decline persistent massage offers. But inside, a quiet question still lives. What's next? Because 10 years is not one move or even two. It's a chain of decisions, each of which tears you away from the previous version of yourself and forces you to become someone new. You already feel a new person forming inside, one who accepts uncertainty more easily, who is less afraid to start from zero. But this is only the beginning of a long journey. The third year. You decide to move on and relocate to Latin America, Buenos Aires. After chaotic Bangkok and orderly Berlin, this city hits differently. Tango in the air, steaks the size of plates, people who hug you on first meeting. You rent an apartment in Palermo, and for the first time in a long while, you feel like you can finally exhale. Here you quickly find freelance work, remotely helping European companies with English language content. The money is better than expected, but with it comes a new challenge. You begin to form real connections, not superficial bar conversations, but deep ones lasting until morning with locals who talk about their country as if inviting you into their family. One evening you sit in a small cafe with an Argentine woman named Sofia. She asks, "Where is your real home?" You fall silent, because you no longer know the answer. Berlin was an experiment. Bangkok was an adventure. Here, for the first time, you felt you could stay. But 6 months later, Sofia gets a job offer in Spain, and you understand, even here, nothing holds you forever. The fourth year brings the most difficult move, to Tokyo. Japan demands a complete reboot from you. Punctuality here is a religion. Silence on public transport is law. You learn to bow correctly, take off your shoes in the right places, and stay quiet when you want to speak up. For the first month, you feel like a robot trying to imitate a human. You work at a small company helping foreigners adapt. The irony is that the Japanese themselves treat you with polite distance. You learn to eat ramen alone at the counter without feeling awkward. You learn to walk through Shinjuku parks early in the morning when the city is still sleeping. And at some point, you notice a new habit forming inside you, a deep inner silence. You no longer seek constant comfort. You've learned to live in the state of, I'm here temporarily, but I experience it fully. This changes everything. Before, you feared the unknown. Now it has become the norm. But there is a price. Your parents call less often. Friends back home gradually stop writing first. You see their lives through Instagram, weddings, children, mortgages, the familiar circle, and your life is a suitcase, a new language every couple of years. And the constant feeling that you're putting yourself together piece by piece across different cultures. The 5th year, you return briefly to Europe, this time to Lisbon. Warm sun, the ocean nearby, a relaxed rhythm. There are many expats here, and for the first time in 5 years, you meet people living a similar life. Conversations until late at night about how moves break you and put you back together. It's in Lisbon that you first honestly admit to yourself, you no longer fully belong to any country. You've become a citizen of the world, with all the advantages and disadvantages. The plus is that you can work from anywhere with internet. The minus is that sometimes, in the middle of the night, you're hit by a sharp feeling of loss. The loss of that version of yourself who once knew exactly where their place was. You've already accumulated experience that can't be bought. You know how to start a new life from scratch in 2 weeks, how to make friends in any culture, how to see in people what is common beyond language and traditions. But most importantly, you've learned not to cling. At this point, 5 years have passed. Half the journey, and you understand that the second half will be even more interesting. Because now you're not just going somewhere. You already know how it works, and you start making choices more consciously. But there's still a lot of the unexpected ahead. The 6th year, you decide to try something completely different and move to Dubai. After calm Europe and rhythmic Asia, this city strikes you with its energy. Skyscrapers that seem endless, artificial islands, people from all over the world. Here, no one asks where you're from. Everyone came for opportunities. You find a job in digital marketing for international companies. The money here is on another level. For the first time in all these years, you feel a financial cushion that gives you freedom of choice. But Dubai teaches you a new lesson, the lesson of contrasts. On one hand, luxury and comfort. On the other, the feeling that everything around is somewhat artificial. People come and go. Friendships here are fast, bright, but rarely deep. You meet expats from different countries for dinner on the 50th floor and realize, in some sense, all of you are refugees from your old lives. Everyone is looking for something of their own. One night, after a long workday, you step out onto the balcony of your apartment with a view of the Burj Khalifa. The city shines below, like a giant spaceport. And in that moment, you clearly formulate the truth for yourself. You are no longer looking for a home. You are looking for a state in which you can be yourself without masks, without the need to explain why you didn't stay there. The 7th year brings the most unexpected turn. You move to Mexico City, a giant, noisy, vibrant metropolis. Here, everything is the opposite of Dubai. Chaos, warm people, food you can't stop eating. You live in the Condesa district, rent an apartment with high ceilings, and learn to dance salsa on rooftops on weekends. It's here that for the first time in 7 years, you feel something inside you beginning to calm down. You are no longer running from yourself. You're collecting all your previous versions. German discipline, Thai flexibility, Argentine openness, Japanese mindfulness. All of this is now part of you. You notice how easily you strike up conversations with strangers, how quickly you adapt to new rules, how much less you fear mistakes. But there is a dark side. You begin to notice that your capacity for deep relationships has weakened. You've become so used to goodbyes that sometimes you don't give relationships a chance to grow. An old friend from Russia comes to visit and says, "You've changed. You've become lighter." But sometimes it seems like you don't attach yourself to anything. These words stay with you for a long time. The 8th year, you return to Asia, but to a different part, Seoul. South Korea is the next level of discipline and technology. You work on a project related to K-content and fully immerse yourself in the culture. You learn to make kimchi, understand the chaebol system, and spend nights watching K-dramas. Here you face the strongest culture shock of all the years, realizing how much Koreans value collectivity and hierarchy. You learn to be part of the system without losing yourself. And at some point, you understand an important thing. All these moves have taught you the main lesson. You are capable of building a life in almost any conditions. You are no longer a victim of circumstances. You are a person who chooses the context in which you want to live. By the end of the 8th year, you possess a rare skill. You can arrive in a new country and create a comfortable environment around yourself within a month. You know how to find the right people, how to quickly master the language at a practical level, how to maintain your inner core when everything around is changing. But it's in Seoul that you're hit by the strongest feeling of all these years: exhaustion from constant change. Not depression, not a crisis, just a deep fatigue from having to put your life back together piece by piece, again and again. You sit in a small cafe in Hongdae, drinking coffee, and, for the first time in a long while, ask yourself, what if I stop? Not forever, just for a while. The ninth year, you choose relative stability and move to Portugal, to a small town in the Algarve. The ocean is nearby, the rhythm is calm, many digital nomads. Here, for the first time in 9 years, you allow yourself not to run forward. You work remotely, write, reflect. You observe how your attitude toward what once seemed important is changing. You understand that 10 years of living in different countries is not about geography. It's about how you learn to live with yourself, how you learn to let go, how you learn to see beauty in transitional states. You are no longer the person who stood in the airport 10 years ago. You've become someone much more whole, though also more alone, in a certain sense. But the journey is not over. There remains the final, most important stage. The ninth and 10th years became a period of summing up. You settled in the Algarve, but not as a fugitive, as a person who consciously chooses calm. The ocean nearby, a quiet pace of life, remote work. Here you finally stopped running. Over 10 years, you lived in 7 countries. You learned to start life over in 2 to 3 weeks, to speak 4 languages at a conversational level, to make friends in any culture and let them go just as easily. You saw how your perception of success, money, relationships, and yourself changed. The most important discovery: you stopped looking for the one home. You understood that home is now inside you. You learned to carry it with you. German discipline, Thai lightness, Japanese mindfulness, Latin American warmth. All these cultures became part of you. But there is a price. You notice that you've become less attached. Deep relationships come harder. There have been too many goodbyes in the past. Family and old friends sometimes look at you as a person from another life. You've changed. You've become calmer, more observant, but also a bit more alone in this world. At the end of the 10th year, you sit on a terrace overlooking the ocean and understand these 10 years were not a journey. It was a great inner work. You took yourself apart and put yourself back together, stronger, freer, and more honest. Now you know exactly who you are and what you want. And this knowledge is worth more than all the stamps in your passport.